Yo, YouTube, what's good? Now, this is the first part of my horror series. I am developing my own horror game, and you can go wishlist it in a few days on GameJolt and itch.io. But the first tutorial we're gonna make here is a flashlight tutorial. So, here you've got your base plate, everything, looks pretty basic. Um, Now, what you're gonna wanna do is because first we're gonna be doing the lighting. We're gonna be doing the lighting and a flashlight system because every horror game needs to have a flashlight. So first you're going to type in or just find the directional light. Once you found that, edit, delete, or you could just press the delete button. Now what you wanna do is add a point light. Now you can have it at whatever intensity you want, but just for the sake of having some sort of lights, we're just going to do this, duplicate it, source radius, source radius, source length, intensity, and we're just gonna make the light bigger. Gonna make the light a bit bigger, Shift D, and just duplicate around a few areas just to have something that we can use. Now I am gonna make sure there are a few dark areas so we can test out the flashlight. But here we've got all of this. That should be good. Now what you're gonna want to do is go into first person blueprints, then first person character. It should say first person character blueprint class. Now once we go in there, what we're gonna want to do first is find a little space right here, right? Now in viewport, we're going to want to add a flashlight. Now I don't really have a mesh, so I'm just going to add a square, just any random mesh, just to have something. Um, I'm just going to add a cube, and we're going to give it any random material you want. Um, but here you can have any sort of. I actually forgot to add a flashlight in, so we will just have a square. So, and if you don't wanna shape it like to a grid, scale it to a grid, you can just scale it however you want here. Now, we need to add a spring arm, so we are going to go into add, then we are going to type in SPRING arm. We're gonna put this up to the middle of the camera right here. And you need to make sure it's at the middle of the camera. Target arm length, we're going to make that 20. Now we're going to enable camera lag and camera rotation lag. Now, if you don't want it to follow, now, wait, in the cube, wait, the spring arm. Now we need to put a cube inside of the spring arm component. Then we need to put a spring arm itself inside of the camera. Now the spring arm can rotate with the camera. Compile and save. Then if we go back and start playing, you should see that you see that the thing is following. The whatever your flashlight mesh is actually following the look. See that? It's actually following your camera. Now I can't really see it well, so let's go back into here and in the viewport. We are going to make it so that this is a bit farther away from our face. Our oh, gonna make it a bit smaller and make it go a bit closer. Right there. That should be fine. Compile, save. Now, I'm just gonna pretend this is you see, now it should be following, yeah, it should be following, but it does, as you can see, yeah, that's a bit weird, isn't it? So, we're going to fix that now by going back into the blueprint, going back into the blueprints. Now, the lag, now we have to go to the spring arm. This lag right here, we're gonna set it 30, then 35. Now you can mess around with these because the camera lag speed is kind of how it follows the camera, like from here, that's how it follows the camera. The rotation lag is how it follows the rotation of your camera. Now compile and save. Now if you play, you can see that it's way more controlled. And it's way more, in our arms. And this actually goes a long way to make things look smoother in your games. Because without it, most of the time it could make things look stiff in your hand, and that's just not really realistic in my opinion. Now we can blueprints back to first person, event graph. Now we need to wait here. We need to add a inside the spring arm. We need to add a spotlight. SPOT, a spotlight. Now you can make this however you want, but me personally, I would make the intensity just a bit intense. The inner cone angle you can set to whatever you want. Source radius, you don't really need that. And the color to make it a bit more realistic to any flashlight, I would make it I would make it white with a little bit of yellow. So right there should be fine. Now compile save. Now when we start, now we have a flashlight, but we have no way to turn it off. You have no way to turn it off. You can't do anything to turn off the flashlight right now. What do we do? Don't worry, I have a fix for that. It's actually a very easy fix. You go into the first person, go into the event graph. Now we're going to find a space right under here. Right click. Now key that we find the F key. F pressed, flip, flop. Now A, if you want, you could. Oh, what? Okay. Um, back into viewport. We can set this the default to be visible. You could set the default visibility to false. Back into the event graph. A, set visibility spotlight to true. And then on B, set, or you could just do this, Control C, Control V, C, Control V, Control, oh, this, Control C, Control V, alright, this into here, then we could also play a sound. Now you can go on any browser, but I prefer to use OpenGX. Very unpopular opinion, I know, very unpopular opinion. Now, I have a shortcut here for Pixabay. Now we can find any sound effects we want. Let's try use flashlights, flashlight kicking on. picking up flashlight. We will make a picking up system in the next video. Flashlight switch. Okay, let's use the flashlight click. But you can use any two sounds you want. Flashlight off. Now, if I go back to Unreal and then play sound 2D. Now, don't use play sound at location, or also play at the specific location you were in that area. And we don't really need to play. We don't really need to use play sound at location because the location will be where the player actually is. So instead of that, it will just play the actual sound in our ears. Now I'm gonna add a folder audio. Audio. We will add more folders as time goes on. Now these two, and now all these other files are blurred out because now here should be flashlight click. Wait, FL. Then you can just Control C, Control V, then change it to the FL flashlight on off. Now the new visibility for this area here should be 0. So off. False because alright, now the default value is 0. When you press F, it turns on. F again, it turns off. F on, F off. So now we've got ourselves a flashlight. A very silly one at that. And just in case for anyone who somehow didn't see that, we can just delete this. Delete this light too, and then test it. Now, in here it's dark, right? We need the flashlights. F, done. F again, off. F again, on. And F again, off. Now, here is just a base plate, so we won't really be doing much actual game developing. This will be specifically for tutorials and testing out other things. Now, it's time to do lighting. Now, if you want to make good lighting, you're gonna need something. Let's add in fog, exponential high fog. Now, here in settings, FOG. This is here we're gonna make like a horror dystopian fog. Now, volumetric fog, you're gonna want that to be on. Now, the albedo, I had set to gray, a bit of a bluish gray. A bit of a bluish gray. Blue, gray. Synction scale. Start distance. You can put that anything you want. But we do also need to change this for cuff distance. Wait, Now you can change the fog to whatever you want. If you go far enough away, it still doesn't work. So now we need to go back to the general settings. Now you can set all of these to that specific gray value. So I'm gonna use the bluish gray value that I like using. Directional, you can select anything you want, any random color. Now visible as visible scale. Should be working now. Into advanced. What's happening right now? The phone should be working. After hidden in game, visible, yes. Emissive. Oh yeah, the density is set to 1. When I set to 1 should be a good amount. I would say to 3. 3 should be good. Fog density 1. Fog is still not working. So distance. I need to fire up one of my other projects to see how this works. Oh, I think there might be 2 fogs. Let's type in F. No. Yep, there is another exponential height fog, so I will need to delete that. Alright, I don't know what's happening now. Control Z, Control Z. So I probably will need to delete this exponential height fog and go to this one. Limit fog on. Yep, now it works. Alright, so what I was doing wrong was I was not using the original height fog. I was instead adding a new one, which I shouldn't do. Now, this fog height fall off depends on what you want to set it to. If you want like something really foggy, I recommend you set it to this for fogging the lights. I don't know how to fix the issue of the weird lighting in the back with the clouds. Now the offsets, I don't recommend you change that. I do recommend you change that either. Because as you can see, it sometimes can break the game. Fog density kind of does break the game a bit. It just adds too much fog. Control Z, Control Z. Start distance. You can change that to whatever you want. Image fog on. Now the extinction scale is where the fog just stops being there. So if you play the game, wait, let me just unexpand this. Let's just expand the viewports. Play. This is how the line should look. Something like this. Now F to see in the fog. Now this fog is like extreme fog. Like, so if you like this fog for games, for horror games, you can use this fog. Um, and I recommend not to use Lumen. I don't know if this project has Lumen, because then again, this is just a base plate, so you can never tell if this has Lumen. And make sure depending on whatever graphics card you're using. Like for example, I'm using a 3060, so my graphics can handle this perfectly. It's just that I have two projects open. A project that I sadly cannot show you because it's actually a game that I'm working on, so I cannot show you guys it. So if you were able to somehow screenshot that, that's your only sneak peek of my game. Now I'm just going to delete this, and later we're going to focus on map making. Now that we've got some sort of fog, you can mess around with the settings if you want, but sometimes I just like using this. But we are going to edit it a bit. Scattering. The scattering, you can change the scattering however you want. I'm going to make it's a bit of a bluish gray. Then the fade in distance is where it fades in. Start distance where it starts. Now I don't recommend using this because that basically means there's like zero fog. I recommend using something like this, because this fog, it just looks really realistic, and it's good for really realistic games, maybe AAA. But I don't really like AAA slop, so whatever suits you. Now if you really want to make it extreme, you could use 2. But please note, this is extreme, like very extreme fog. The flashlight don't even work properly. It just. But if you want this type of fog, then you can use it. Now we're just going to perfect a few things here to make it okay. Now the high fall off, we're going to change that to something a bit like this. Density, forgot, let's not change that. Yeah, do not be changing the second fog data unless you're going to use the high fall off or anything like that. In fact, don't even use the high fall off. Yeah, just close this up. Make sure you don't edit anything in there. Start distance, bulk cutoff distance. Doesn't really change a lot. Make that gray. But to the high fog, volumetric fog. Extinction scale, let's set that down a bit. View distance. Start distance, make it sound really close. Fade in. Let's make it this static light. Current color. Now this fog should be fine. This fog is okay. Yep, fog. This is what I would prefer to use. Right, now we've gone to the most boring parts, but this is a very important part of your games. Sorting out everything. Now, I normally like to create a folder for models, for doors, because normally in here I'll put the actors or the key doors of a key door. And since I'm making a mascot horror game, I will need a lot of those because there will be a bit of a time, there will be time wasters because, well, I mean, there would be too many because the game needs to be long, but not too long. Then another folder. We're going to name this characters. This will be for all of your NPCs, for all of your character NPCs, and for mascots. Normally, I would do main cast, main unscot cast, and remember you cannot use um you can't use white spaces, as in the space bar, to type in stuff. It won't let you. So instead, I recommend you just use an underscore or a minus, depending on what you want to do. Um, then there, or you could type side characters. Then also cutscenes. And since in my game I have a remote, yes, it is a Vampire fan game. Please don't judge. Let's add it and let's call it remote or whatever gimmick you have in your game. Now, when I'm making gimmicks, I normally like to make gimmicks, create them myself. So I would probably just use a blaster for now. But in the next tutorial, we'll learn um how to make a head bob. We will also learn how to make a sprint and maybe a crouch. When we see you guys later, and see you guys in the next video. See ya. Peace.